All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tara, founder of McEwen Media, and your host for this a very exciting live chat. I'm calling it Ideas into Action because if you're following me, you know that I love creativity and I take action quickly, but it's always informed action. And I think there's a lot of information out there around research, market research, and what information you need to take in order to know when you're ready to take action on an idea. And for a lot of people, if you're not confident in where you're operating from, you could spend years doing research. You could spend years thinking about your idea and never take action on it. So that's why, to me, this is such an important conversation to have with other people who are in the industry, who know how to strike that balance between taking in the right information, interpreting it the right way, and then taking action in a way that's actually going to move your business forward. So that's where my next guest, Rachel Mik, McEwen, we think that we are distant cousins somehow, marketing expert extraordinaire. So I love talking, I kind of poo-poo marketing sometimes, but I love the fact that I could find someone who is in marketing and has my approach to turning inward and making decisions from there. So please welcome my guest, Rachel.
Hi, thank you.
So before we get into it, can you tell people a little bit more about your marketing background and how you work with businesses?
Yeah, so my marketing background really started a long, long time ago. I started building websites when I was a teenager and doing graphic design. And then at about 2011, I got a job as a social media manager. As you do as a young person, somebody looks around and goes, "You come manage our accounts."
Yep.
And then I springboarded into managing an entire media department, which included all of their marketing, all their online channels, basically. So that's how I got started. And then when I about 7 years ago, I was coming off mat leave with my second, and I started my own business, Geek Unicorn. And we focused on branding, web design, and marketing strategy. And then I've now transitioned into more like coaching consulting. So rather than actually like going and building the website or, designing logos or whatnot, I am helping business owners make the decisions around marketing and follow through with them and the structure around that. So like building the plan and executing the plan and having the confidence and the knowing what they want to do and actually going for it and doing it. Because that's a big problem as solo entrepreneurs, right? Is you get very stuck in your head, you get very stuck in your ways. So having somebody to talk with and chat with and to know what direction to take, like that's really important.
Absolutely. And you nailed it perfectly too. Like, because I work with business owners too, and myself as a business owner doing my own marketing, the idea, what I want to achieve is inside my head, but it's just having that partner to kind of bring it out of you. And I love that description too, that you had, that you basically being the youngest person in the office, now figure out the social media stuff. I feel like as an industry, and we talked about this when we first met, as an industry, I think that was the pattern and habit. Even in television, our digital department, they were almost like a separate arm to the rest of television. And now that I'm in this space of combining the world of TV with the world of digital marketing, I'm like, oh, there's actually a fascinating conversation between television and understanding what a television audience wants and figuring that out in the digital space. And even when I worked in TV, there wasn't that cross conversation happening. So I feel like we need to have this conversation now, because it is about understanding what the outside world, what information is giving you, and then how to make creative decisions quickly. There's a lot of, I've been doing a bit of a deep dive. I'm reading Gary Vaynerchuk's new book, Day Trading Attention, I think is what it's called. It's right behind me on my shoulder. And I'm loving the process that he is describing, but it's a similar overwhelm of when I explain to someone my creative process. It is so internal, it is so natural and integral to me that to then break it down into steps, it gets really overwhelming. So I've started kind of piecing through what he's offering and sharing with people, well, yeah, you can look outside into the world of social media and digital media and see what everyone's doing and then make your decisions there. Or you can turn inwards and just share, like, what do I want to share with people right now? What's exciting me right now? What has me passionate right now? And then let the business come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even just looking at competitors or what other people are doing, for me anyways, comes from a place of I already kind of know what I want to do. And now I'm looking outwards for maybe some inspiration as to what that might look like in the look and the feel of it, or what are maybe some of the, I don't like maybe trends kind of thing, like what's working, I guess, in the
Mhm.
algorithms, because in the real life, like we are fighting against algorithms and psychology and all those kinds of things. And so we might have an idea, but then it's like, how do I fine tune that so that the message actually gets out?
Yeah, the algorithm. Yeah, I think if you're playing to the algorithm, you're already losing the game. If the algorithm is your objective, then you're gamifying a platform that just wants to be used. So the platform itself is winning. You and your business is not winning. So the algorithm for me, it doesn't make any factor. Like I don't, for my personal business growth, I don't pay attention to really any metrics. And I actually divorced
Mm.
metrics and ratings back when I worked in television, because it was always giving like a surface fraction of like, well, this is what the audience was concerned with that day. But I
Yeah.
am myself, I am my business every single day. So I take it in as, I'm aware, I have X number of followers on Instagram, X number of followers on LinkedIn, but who are those followers, right?
Mm.
Who are the people that are in that network, and how are they interpreting my content? I got to tell you, a lot of my business comes from referrals. So it's
Yeah,
people
for sure.
who have worked with me or they've been following me for a while. They really, really like my content, and then they're recommending me to someone else. And honestly, the referral, it collapses time because you have that additional person
Yeah.
who is giving their voice of support to work with.
It becomes more like a warm lead rather than
Yeah,
a cold one. Yeah, for
absolutely.
sure.
Yeah. So there are a couple things that I want to unpack. So first, let's talk about, with your background in interpreting numbers and data and information. So if you were to pick just one, what would be the best indicator that something is working?
Yeah, so mine is more so in the creative zone rather than the actual, like, I'm looking at data and numbers and blah, blah, blah. Although that is definitely a part of it. I would just say your sales. Like, are you working with the people that you want to work with? Are you getting people knocking at your door? Are you booking sales calls? Like those kinds of things. The practical stuff, right? Because
Mhm.
a lot of the folks that I work with are the solopreneur. They are those more like boutique, bespoke businesses. They don't need 100,000, a million customers,
Mhm.
because they're typically working one-on-one with folks. Now they may have like a digital product or a digital offering, which does bring in additional revenue, but the bulk of what they do is that one-on-one. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah. So I don't know if that answered the question, but
It does. It does.
yeah, it
I
was
like
sales.
I like
Are you working with the people you want to work with? That's the metric.
Absolutely. And I think too, if I can take that one step further, because sometimes the sales aren't there, right? But the content can still be working. The metric that I take it even one step further is how efficient am I being with this content? And that's actually what I advise a lot of my clients with too.
Mm.
Like
Oh, I love
you
that.
you can do anything, but if doing videos takes up all the time in the world,
Mm.
but you can knock off like 7 articles in that same amount of time, then start a blog. Like own LinkedIn
Yeah.
articles.
And
You
I
don't
would say, yeah, like too, like are you diversifying what you have? So yes, you
Mhm.
did the blog, but did you break that into a carousel for your Instagram?
Absolutely.
Did you do a little reel about it? Like that kind of things. Are you maximizing what you've done? Because you spent all this time creating that information. Now
Mhm.
you can break it up and put it into different types of media so that you can get
Absolutely.
bigger reach.
Yeah. And I think too, bringing it back into how it feels as the creator, as long as when you're connecting to your own creative process, and again, how you can have the broadest reach possible, you're always going to be connecting with the ideas that excite you. Because that's another area. If people look too much into how individual posts are performing, and then they get really, really narrowed into, well, people are really into like this type of content, even though it's like the least interesting thing to me, this is what's performing. And I'll use that in air quotes. So I'm going to double down on this stuff. But if you're not internally jazzed by this idea, then it's going to show up in your performance. It's going to show up in what you contribute, and it's going to sound like the same message over and over and over again. And you're literally phoning it in. Like you're feeding, again, you're gaming the algorithm. You're feeding something because some data farm told you that this is what people are looking for. Your audience can always shift and change. So for me, I started off by talking strictly about getting booked on television. So here's the pitch process. Here's how to write a pitch. Here's how to, come up with an idea. And honestly, because the pitch process for me and my interest in it was so short, I ran out of content in like 3 months. Like, I don't know how how am I going to build a business for this? But once I started leaning into, showing up on social media, how it felt for me to go from being behind the scenes to in front of the camera, and the long journey that took, and all of those learnings. Well, then like I have content for days. Like, I'm my own case study, and it keeps growing and evolving and expanding and developing. So the more I lean into social media, and then the business is just catching up with it, right? I've got offerings, I've got ways that I can work with people on social media that can also serve the television space. If I had only gone by the metrics of when I was sharing stuff about the pitch process, I would have seen like what parts of the pitch process are rating really well. But I had this whole other journey that I wanted to share with the community that I would have ignored. So to me, again, that's where how it feels on the inside is the most important metric, because you are the creator, you are the vehicle for this message. So don't let the numbers are at the end. The numbers are the final reward. The creative process should be the only thing that you're focusing on. How does it feel in this moment? And is it honestly what I want to share with the world?
I think that goes back to like the qualia of your brand. Like it's sort of not defining your brand by the topics that you speak about, but by what it is that you're looking to achieve overall, right? Like if it's, I'm here to help business women expand their businesses, well, that doesn't mean I have to talk about web design and I have to talk about branding. I could also be into mindset, or, but balancing your books, whatever that is, like I'm always going back to like, what is it at the core of what I'm doing, exclusive of what the topic is. And then, back to the how it feels, which is, I call it like the qualia, your experience of it, your subjective experience. So like, if it's feeling right, because it's sort of married with what it is that you're here to do and provide value on, but the understanding the difference too between it doesn't feel right because I'm uncomfortable and I don't like being in the camera, or it doesn't feel right because it's not actually aligned with what it is that I'm trying to put out here into the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a hard thing to distinguish. I think that, you do actually need to work with people who can guide you into the right answers, because similar to, misunderstanding data, you can misunderstand your internal signals too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Cause you know what? Sometimes you don't feel like doing something because, oh, guess what? You haven't drinking enough water and you hadn't have a snack, right?
Yeah.
Like you haven't had a break in 4 hours. Like let's just, or, it's after 9 p.m. Of course you're doom and gloom right now. Like go to bed.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. And I think too, this is where following trends is this kind of comforting thing that I see a lot of people do. They see something trending, and if it's easy and they can understand that they can take action on it, then they'll do it. But we were talking before the stream started, just because other people are doing it doesn't mean you should. And it also doesn't mean it's going to serve your brand. So there are two trends that I would, if you take only one thing from this conversation, business owners in the world, please stop stitching the stretcher video. We all know what I'm talking about. It's that shot of a person who is like completely wrapped up on a stretcher. The stretcher topples over and the person rolls alongside it. So many business owners are continuing to stitch themselves, also rolling on their living room floor, and then delivering some kind of cheeky message. First, a bit of understanding. I understand why you're doing this. It's trending. Everyone is doing it. And from a technical standpoint, it's an easy continuity. It's a quick cut. It's an easy thing to understand how to continue on. It's a really, really easy edit to do. But I want you to consider the person in the stretcher, right? That is still an individual who is not at their best point in the moment of that video. And you are now exploiting them and that moment for your brand. So you're now attaching your brand to this moment. And I think as a society, hopefully we become more aware of how we're using the content that other people are inadvertently creating in the world. Like I think there could be a backlash in a year or two of all this like public footage of people who haven't consented to use their image in this way, in this likeness. These are sensitivities that come way back from when I worked in news and had to handle sensitive information. And so I'm just very aware of that person in the stretcher. Do they deserve to be used in this way? And now you're attaching your brand to this moment.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And not just the one in the stretcher, but I think just any kind of image of anybody that you plan to use, especially in a sarcastic or cheeky kind of way, to recognize that, yeah, that is a person, but also what is it that you're actually saying here? You know, like, so, and does it, and going back to that, you know, understanding your brand and what it is that you're here to do and bring value on. Yeah, because I think when it comes to the trend, so many people, you know, they might have a business and a brand that's not necessarily known as being like funny or comical, but then they're jumping into these trying to be funny and comical, and it's like that's not actually who you are, what you do. And I think we were saying before, like about how trying to chase the algorithm, and it's like you're kind of, when you're going on a trend, there's this idea that, okay, well, this is a sure bet, I'm going to get some eyeballs on this. But yeah, really at the end of the day, what are you actually saying? And then also, yeah, like treating every single image that you have, every single little video, there's a real person behind that.
Absolutely.
And you didn't have consent to.
Yeah.
You like almost put yourself in their shoes. Like, would I like if some business grabbed my image and started sharing that so that they can sell, you know,
I know,
shots for their cats, like, you know, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Every time I see someone stitch that, I'm like, I feel for the person in the stretcher. I worry for them. I'm like, are they okay? Did they make it to the hospital? Like, honestly, what has happened? And then I feel for the paramedics. Like, it's a whole lot going on in there. You touched on a great point too about if you are not funny, don't try to be funny. A trend is not going to a trend that other people have deemed funny is not going to make you funny. Humor is a highly sophisticated form of communication. So if you're struggling with just basic communication of who I am and what I value as a business, don't attempt humor. Don't attempt, just because you make someone politely laugh at a party doesn't mean you're a funny person.
Yeah. Or you could be a funny person, but maybe that's not your brand.
Yeah.
So it's like going back and you know, figuring out what is it that we are at our core.
Yeah.
And does whatever we're producing in our marketing, is that aligned with who we are at our core? You know?
Yeah. And I think too, you also touched on about adding value to the audience. The other trend that really gets my goat when I see especially in a business. So this is a personal rant. My dog Pearl has her own Instagram account. So of course we follow her vet on Instagram. And back in June, they did a cutesy little, you know, lip sync to that song of, you know, I'm looking for a guy, 6'5",
looking for a man in finance,
6'5",
blue
eyes. We all know it. But because it was happening in June, I'm watching this as a dog owner and thinking, well, that's cute and all, but it's June, it's tick season. And like, I'm low key worried that she has ticks all over her. Like, can I maybe have some content of like how to look for ticks? So know that like trends, unless you are known for doing trends, they're not going to serve your business brand, because the people who are following your business brand are following you for your information. They're not following you because you know the latest trends that are happening. There are other like trend accounts, I'm sure, that are doing a better job of this that people are following for. So it's, again, knowing who you are, what you value, and what people are following you for, because it is about the community. It's not about running up the numbers. It's about building a community that you can rely on and convert. That is the name of the game for a business.
Yeah, I think people get a little bit confused because there are so many influencers on social media. And then there are these kind of machines that are designed to create this viral content, and they do earn ad revenue from that. So I think it's easy as a business owner to look out into the landscape and go, oh, I guess this is what people are doing. And they're not understanding how that particular brand generates revenue.
Mhm.
and it's different than how they generate revenue. So the tactics are going to be different for the way that you generate revenue.
Yeah.
And I think hopping on the trends can be detrimental because, like you said, that's not what they're coming to you for. And that's not actually how you earn revenue.
Yeah. And I think that's where like my background in television is so valuable because it's about understanding the audience. There's a concept that I talk a lot about with clients and when I do workshops. It's the audience agreement. So every TV show has an audience agreement. They paid
Right.
off, like it's basically you can expect X from us. So I'll use some popular examples like the evening news. You know that you can expect like the most dominant news stories packaged
Sure.
together with reporters around the world.
Yeah.
Sports, the pact is where you're going to get the sports headlines. Morning television, you're going to get news you can use. You're going to get the headlines as well as weather and traffic. So I want every person with a brand with a social media account to understand they're also building an audience agreement. So what is the consistent thing that people are going to get from you over and over and over again? And how can you deliver that in a way that is exciting for you as well? I think a lot of people confuse consistency with frequency. You can post as many times as you
Sure.
want to. Consistency is about consistency of voice, consistency of message, and consistency of values.
So what would you say, like if I was listening to this for the first time, or maybe not the first time, but I'm managing my own social media and I'm like, well, that all sounds really good, but how do I like try and experiment? Like, what if I just don't know? Like, I don't know what's right for me. Like, I don't know, like, I'm not a, an Instagram expert. Like, how am I supposed to know not to do the trend where the guy falls off the thing,
For me, it really is just like maybe give yourself like a 30-day challenge. So just be in the space for 30 days. So I always advise people stories are the most forgiving platform because they disappear after 24 hours. So just share stuff, as if you are. So when I first started, anytime I gave someone a piece of advice, I would record that as, an Instagram story. And so that helped me get into the habit. So I wasn't overthinking, well, what is this content? Does it fit my values? I was giving this advice anyways. And I actually still continue to do that. So anytime, I'm in conversation with someone or I'm in the middle of a discovery call, if there's something interesting that comes up in that conversation or discovery call, I'll share that as social media. I'll share that it'll be an idea for something because a lot of times it can just be as simple as the information that you're sharing offline, share it online.
Yeah.
And that's your business brand. Whoever you are behind the scenes is who you are now on camera. And so it's just about building that habit of every time I say something in the meat world, so to speak, that's actually great fodder for social media. And the people who are interested in that topic will find it. In Gary's book, he talks about thinking about your audience in terms of cohorts with teeth. And so he's just basically saying, like, you have, your stay-at-home mom or your solopreneur, but with specifics. So where they live geographically, what their interests are, and then base your content around there. What I realized after reading that book was like, well, I have my cohorts with teeth every time they book a discovery call with me. I'll have a call with someone who's starting a business or someone who's building their brand or they're transitioning their brand or, they're 10 years into building their business. So these are all the cohorts with teeth that I'm having in real life conversations with. I don't then now have to go and do all kinds of research on social media to see what they're interested in. They're sitting in front of me. So the problems and concerns and the nuanced specific challenges that they're dealing with, that is now fodder for social media content and thought leadership. And oftentimes it's usually if there's something really, really great that comes up in a call, I'll just write a quick LinkedIn post right after that. Just, this thing happened. Here's the advice I gave. Here's why it works. And then of course, add a link to learn more. So it's just about, to me, it's also about collapsing, I think, the barriers between actually being in your business and then representing it on social media.
Yeah, because especially if you like working with those clients, like you like that person, you want more of that type of person. So if this is the info that you're sharing with them and they're getting a lot of value out of it, absolutely put that online because then there's other people like that who are going to get that that value and that wisdom and then be interested in working with you too to get more of that.
And sometimes too, the people who are wanting to work with you and booking time with you, you might think that you have, ideal client in mind, but then these almost like satellite clients are also coming to you. So
Mhm.
as people were coming to me for social media advice, before I even had like the confidence to say, oh yeah, I know about social media and actually like offer support in that space, I was still listening to what they were talking about. I was still listening to their concerns and then really internally asking, well, what can I bring to the table to help them with this? And it really came down to, well, understanding the audience, how to connect with an audience, how to build an audience, and understanding that from a TV perspective, because I think TV has it nailed down how to
Mhm.
create a loyal following. And there's definitely some information that can now be transferred to the digital space to just make it easier to make decisions and take action faster.
Yeah, yeah. I think especially when it comes to that that awareness of the audience within television, I mean, that's decades of psychology, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
really the only thing that's changed is the medium and the
Yeah,
format, right? But it's still at the end of the day, it's still people talking to people.
yeah. So where would people start? Because you talked a lot about values. So if you haven't explored what your business values are, where would be a good place for people to start?
Well, there's so many resources online, you can pick up a little workbook anywhere. It's from anywhere from free to low cost or paid or work with somebody one-on-one.
Yeah.
But I think, I love doing it's as simple as looking at a list of core values
Hmm.
and then just like circling the ones that jump out for you and narrow down to about 3 or 5
Hmm.
most.
Hmm.
And then every decision that you kind of make or if you're uncertain about something, go look back at those. What are those 3 to 5 core values and do they fit in there? And
Hmm.
sometimes when you're kind of deciding between 2 different things, maybe one leans more towards the other than another one.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to change those values either. Because I
Mhm.
remember when I started my business, I had a couple of values. And then over time, over a few years, I realized, you know what, I'm not really aligned with this anymore. Like I'm going to sort of change it and shift it over to here because
Mhm.
it looked good on paper, but in practice, I wasn't actually walking the walk and talking the talk because it
Yeah.
wasn't actually what it was that I was doing. So,
Yeah.
um,
I think the idea that your business can evolve as you
uh,
evolve as a human, for some reason, that's like a hot new idea in the entrepreneur world. I'm like,
surprise.
what? I don't recommend that people shape shift every with the seasons, but it is like as you are in the work, you are still learning and evolve. And especially if you're working in an industry like media, is constantly changing. So you also need to be able to develop and adapt and evolve your messaging. I
Yeah,
love
because I think
to,
as
yeah,
you grow and expand, you become
yeah,
aware of more things.
yeah.
Right? So in that awareness, you now are going to sort of shift and change as
Mhm.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think understanding your core values of who you are as a business and a business owner and what you bring to the table can help you navigate that. But it's also, I was just thinking back to when I worked on the Marilyn Dennis show, having the core value also helps you lead and collaborate with a team. So,
Yeah.
if you have dreams of one day bringing people in to work on your content for you, it's still so important for you to be the author of that message, to be the
Yeah.
core, like this is where the message comes
Yeah.
from.
You're the captain
And
of the ship. Yeah.
absolutely. And then communicate to the team, well, these are the values. So when I started the Marilyn Dennis show, we had an expression called inside Maryland and outside Maryland. So it's
Okay.
basically inside Maryland was anything that felt right, that aligned with the show's vibe, with and Maryland as a host, her values, what she was interested in. There was a lot of stuff that was outside Maryland. Still good ideas, interesting content. Other people are doing it, but it didn't feel right for us. So having
Right.
that inside outside is just go again, ideas into action. The stronger you understand who you are in the container that you're building, the easier it's going to be for you to know if something, an idea that's on the outside, whether or not it's the right fit for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people aren't coming to you for what everybody else is doing. They're coming to you for
Mhm.
you. There's something
Mhm.
unique that you offer in the way that you deliver it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the topic idea into action was inspired by the work that you're doing with clients in terms of guiding them through, like they have an idea to launch something, but they
hmm
need that extra guidance. So, what are some of the big obstacles that people encounter in that space?
Well, there's like 3 different modes. It's either they don't know what to do at all. Like they kind of know they need to do something. Like maybe it's I need another line of revenue or I need to free up some time. I literally don't know what I should do or what I should pick. The second level of that is they know what to do, but they don't know how. So it could be like, I want to do a digital course, but like, I literally like, there's so much, I don't know, do I need email marketing? Do I need da da da? Like, am I picking Kajabi or like, what is it? Like, and it's just, there's so much information. It's like, I don't know how to go down this path.
Mhm.
And then the third is they know what to do. They know how to do it and they're not doing it and they don't know why, or they kind of
Mm.
know why, but they don't know how to get over it. So those are the three sort of areas that I would help with I've got a 90-day sprint. So we work together for 90 days and we can double that or triple that or however
Yeah.
many sessions that we need after that. But the 90 days, we typically get through one of those three problems that you're having. And
Amazing. Yeah.
typically at the end of that, what we're looking to do is add more revenue into your business.
Yeah. And so much of that is managing the external information and the internal information, right? It's the signs that you're getting from the world and from the universe and how you're internalizing it. It's always going to mess up with the decisions that you make.
Yeah, right. Because you do get a lot of information out there. And at the end of the day, you can have a decision paralysis, right?
Yeah.
Like this overwhelm of choice for sure. And a lot of times there is no right or wrong answer. It's
Mhm.
like, try something and see how it works, and if it didn't work, move over to the next one, like I've definitely worked with business owners where, they've set up a certain platform or a certain system. And then as they were running through that, they realized, oh shoot, you know what? We actually really need this thing. Like after we've worked with some clients and we've gotten some feedback, we realize we need this tool or this piece. And this thing that we're working with doesn't have that. So we're going to migrate to this other one that does. They would never have known that if they didn't walk the walk and realize that they were missing something on the path. And
Yeah.
you can change directions at any time.
Yeah.
One of the beauties about business, because we talk about too, like not hopping on the trends or whatever, is just that people don't really remember all the mistakes that you made in the past. So it's okay to change and to make adjustments and to do better. So if you did follow a trend in the past or whatever, don't shut down your business and go be sad in a corner. You're okay. Nobody's going to remember. Just pick up and go forward. Now knowing that you're more aligned with your values and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on a theme that I'm actually exploring in a masterclass coming up on the 19th. It's called No Equals Next Opportunity. So I've built a business where I'm constantly setting myself up for rejection and failure. Like I'm always pitching myself, my clients, new things. And to your point too, like you don't know what it's going to do until you send it out into the world. And rejection really is just more information. It's not happening here, so let's go see where else it can happen. And I think too, the fear of rejection is what keeps people away from taking action, right? Not just the fear of rejection, but the fear of it not performing well. A fear of looking silly, a fear of a lot of clients I work with, they're afraid of getting canceled. And I always say, well, Donald Trump is running for president again, so it's very hard to get canceled these days. And what do you plan on posting that would make you cancelable? Like what? But it's this fear of what the content is going to do. And I think it's not just so much the fear of what's going to do, but it's the fear of knowing that you relinquish control. Once you share something, once you post something, you have no control over how people interpret it. So
yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's true. Exactly. Like, because you could think that it was just innocent and fun or whatever. And then somebody would open up this whole other concept or idea to you and you go like, oh my gosh, yeah, I can see how that wasn't appropriate or whatever. I love listening to really famous comedians talk about the shows that they bombed at, because I think that that's really, it's really important to note that, when you watch that Netflix special and they're at the height of their game, first of all, the show's edited. So, they're getting all the laughs and they're getting all the whatevers. But they've bombed at clubs, they've had food thrown at them. They've had entire sets that don't work. They've been fired from things. And so it's, as a business owner, it's the same thing. You got to go out and you got to try stuff. When you have an idea, like I recently transitioned what I was doing. And so I was very comfortable talking about what I did in my business, in my marketing side of the business, because I've been doing it for 7 years. So that comes out of me really naturally and easily. But as soon as I transitioned into more of this coaching consulting, I would stumble over what it is that I did when somebody asked, because I was also still formulating it and forming it. And I was getting feedback from my clients to see what it is that they liked about it, or what it is that they, were gravitating for. What did they actually need from me, And so, yeah, even for myself, like I would trip over my words and probably still will, but I'm just refining.
Yeah.
And that's that part of the rejection thing too, is like, oh, like I screwed up in how I said it,
Mhm.
but that's okay. I learned something. I learned I don't like to, maybe it's I learned I don't like to use this method, or I don't like to say
Yeah.
that it this way or whatever. So now I'm gonna, go forth with this new piece of information. So yeah,
Mhm.
rejection is just information.
Mhm. Yeah. And I love too, like when you talked about how sometimes you stumble over the words. Sometimes you stumble over the words because you're not used to saying them. So
Right.
that's another area where thought leadership, especially if you invest in the time and energy to get good on video, you're now practicing saying these things over and over and over again. You're not waiting for the next time that you're at a networking event. You
Yeah.
can practice this every day. And again, stories, they disappear after a year. Your own feed, if something is cringy, you can always archive it. You can curate your own feed.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can. I've absolutely recorded video when I'm trying to process something that I want to talk more about. I will record myself
Yeah.
and not show it to anybody. Like I'll just do like like a 4-minute rant on this thing, and sometimes a few days later I'll look back at it and I'll go like, oh yeah, that was a good point, and
Mhm.
that becomes part of my points, right? Oh, that didn't really make sense. I was off on a tangent there. So that's absolutely being able to get it out
Yeah.
is totally part of the process. That's a normal part of the process. So do it. Don't just keep it all up on here or on your notebook. Like get it
Mhm.
out. And
Mhm.
if you have to record it by yourself and delete it, fine. Although I love the story idea. I think that's great too. Cause it's not in 24 hours. And you build up that confidence muscle of like, oh no, because then you start to realize, oh, people do like it. Oh,
Yeah.
so and so who I never realized follows me is liking my story.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I could clearly talk about this stuff for forever.
Yeah, I
I
think we could
love
go on and
nerding
on.
out
Oh
over
gosh.
marketing and storytelling. So tell people how they can contact you, how they can work with you, how they can put their ideas into action with you.
Yeah, you can come join me on a 90-day sprint at rachelmik.ca. We do our first session together. If you don't like the first session, if you didn't get any value at it, you don't have to do any more. So I got a money back guarantee there. But I absolutely love working with business owners, and I want to hear your idea because I definitely, I've got some ideas to help you bring it to fruition.
Amazing. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Rachel. And best of luck to all the businesses who take their ideas and put them into action with you.
Yes, thank you. Bye.